So, my bad, you did say something. Not what I would like to have heard from you, but you did do it, so there you go.
What a terrible correction. Like, she can barely even speak in coherent sentences. Now we got to check in with the lovely ladies over at The View, that bastion of wisdom on cable news, where hosts are paid millions of dollars to spew absolute nonsense and reveal their utter ignorance. Now, they just got in trouble and actually had to issue a correction, like, oh my God, please don't sue us, was basically the vibe, because they just blatantly said incorrect things about President Trump. And it all came in the context of Trump's statement about Rob Reiner, who was, of course, tragically killed alongside his wife just a day ago or so. And Trump put out a kind of nasty post that we talked about. Most people are not fans of, not supportive of, even people who voted for Trump, basically mocking the dude after he died. And most people agree it's a post in pretty poor taste. And we talked about it yesterday on the show. However, this on The View, they, even on such a straightforward point where they could criticize Trump about his response to Rob Reiner, they still had to lie about him and like mess up. They really just can't help themselves. Here is Whoopi Goldberg of The View making a totally false claim, a series of false claims about President Trump on air this week. Let's watch.
I don't understand the man in that White House because he talks so much about Charlie Kirk and caring. Mm-hmm. And suddenly, this is what he puts out. Yeah. Have you no shame?
We haven't got to the part where she says a bunch of things that aren't true, but I actually think this is a good point, that Republicans and Trump himself and everybody was so horrified by the way many people on the left mocked and celebrated the death of Charlie Kirk. I was as well. But then if you go mock the death of a left-wing anti-Trump person, you're kind of doing the same thing. So I agree that is totally inconsistent. But it's also inconsistent for the lefties who were making fun of Charlie Kirk and now are aghast at the murder of Rob Reiner. I was horrified by both. And I think most normal, sane people were as well.
No shame at all? Can you get any lower? I don't think so. And what do you have to say about what's happened around the world? Where is our voice as Americans? Somebody's got to speak up for us. Our hearts are breaking through all of this, through Rob, through what's happened at Bondi Beach, what happened at Brown, and you don't find the time to say, as Americans, we hate what's happening. You ain't my president, man. We'll be right back.
I love the "you're not my president" thing. Well, he is, whether you like it or not. The same way Obama was your president, Biden was your president, Trump was your president. I hate the idea of "not my president." It's just like denial. It's just a weird cope. It doesn't even make sense on its own terms. He is your president, whether you like it or not. Burying your head in the sand and saying "nah" is just childish and not very serious. But the more important point here was that she just was blatantly incorrect or lied, or I think it's more ignorance. And thankfully, that will actually help her defense if Trump sues them, because ignorance is a defense rather than you have to demonstrate actual malice in a defamation case. Anyway, I think she just has no idea what she's talking about, despite her multi-millions that she gets paid by The View to be a professional political analyst on ABC News. Anyway, Trump did absolutely offer condolences and make statements about both the Brown shooting and the horrific shooting in Australia, yet she's claiming that he couldn't find any time to speak anything about that. That's just like obviously not true. Of course it's not true. It shouldn't even pass the sniff test as a political commentator. Of course a president would have commented on these things. And yet she doesn't know that and went and made this wildly inaccurate statement about Trump, once again turning a totally legitimate criticism that a lot of people would have been receptive to into an absolute joke by, yeah, you made your legitimate point about Trump's crappy post about Rob Reiner, and then you had to go lie about him twice. Like, really? This is the best of ABC News. That is bleak, like really bleak. Yikes. But the producers must have been yelling in her ear during that commercial break because she immediately came out and groveled once they were back and apologized. Please, Mr. Trump, don't sue us, please. Listen to this.
I'm going to make a correction here. As it turns out, yesterday, apparently, you know who put his condolences out to the people who are looking down at us from heaven and the folks at Brown. But this is how he followed it up.
About Rob Reiner.
About Rob Reiner. So, my bad, you did say something. Not what I would like to have heard from you, but you did do it. So, there you go.
What a terrible correction. Like, she can barely even speak in coherent sentences. Seriously, that is, her verbal IQ is like room temperature. It's really tough to listen to. Yet millions of people watch this show for their political news, The View. It's actually shocking to me and deeply depressing. Because if I got 1/10 of their viewership, I would be living large out here. But I don't quite. But I do appreciate all of y'all who do tune in to me, of course. And it's more than enough to pay the bills. So that'll be fine by me in the meantime. But it is always just sad to me. You really couldn't actually offer any clear correction. The correction is, here's how you should have corrected for this. Guys, I have to issue a correction. I falsely claimed that Trump had not issued statements on either the Australia shooting or Brown. He has, in fact, issued statements about both of those shootings, offering his condolences to the victims. I apologize for my error, and I apologize to President Trump. That would be the appropriate way to correct that error coming back from the break. It's really not a defensible error to make. There are some things, especially in a live television broadcast, that you can say or slip up on that I get it. Having been there, having been on TV many times, you can misspeak in a certain way or say the wrong thing. Mistakes happen, errors happen, especially with humans, and especially with humans that aren't the brightest bulbs in the whatever. But this is a weird mistake to make. And then that was a pretty half-assed and terrible correction. So who knows? Maybe Trump will sue her. Maybe he'll sue The View. He's sued everybody at this point. I don't support a lot of his lawsuits against media companies. In this case, I doubt he would be successful, but he might be able to bully them into settling anyway. I don't know. But when they make these kinds of sloppy errors on otherwise fertile ground for criticizing Trump, it really is just so emblematic of everything that's wrong with mainstream media and why so many people have tuned out from them and so many people get their news from independent sources instead, and why Trump gets away with so much. He gets away with so much in part because his critics are just like really bad at this. That's my take. That's my read on the situation at least. But y'all will have to let me know what you think in the comments below. Hit the like button, subscribe, comment, and all of that.